Richmond Times-Dispatch. With me is politics reporter Patrick Wilson. We're here to talk about the lawmakers coming back to Richmond tomorrow for the veto session. So Patrick, why don't you help folks understand what the veto session is all about? How does it work?
Sure, yeah, it's informally called Veto Day. When the General Assembly passes bills that go to the governor has the option to sign them, veto them, or amend them. And if the bills are vetoed or amended, they go back to the legislature, and that's what the lawmakers are going to be back considering tomorrow. With the vetoes, the General Assembly can try to override the veto. With the amendments, they have to decide, do they want to accept the governor's amendments or reject them? If they accept the amendments, or if they don't accept the amendments, it goes back to the governor, who then has the option of vetoing the bill or signing it as it is.
And we'll talk about some specifics in a minute, but it's probably unlikely that we're going to have any overrides because the House and the Senate are closely divided, right?
We don't really expect any vetoes to be overridden. The governor vetoed 26 bills this year, which is a little bit more than the standard year. There was a lot of outcry from Democrats that a lot of these vetoes were of bills that had a Republican companion bill in the other chamber or had unanimous or bipartisan support, and they appeared political. But I don't think we're at the point where the Republicans would be willing to override one of their own governor's vetoes, which would be embarrassing for him. And so we don't expect that, but we'll find out tomorrow.
One of the issues that's going to be of particular interest tomorrow is one that you've written about, and that's about the governor's bid to amend some of the marijuana legislation. Why don't you tell folks about that?
Yeah, just for the quick background, the legislature and governor, under full Democratic control, legalized small amounts of marijuana for personal use last year. Virginia still doesn't have a mechanism, though, for legal sales yet. The General Assembly could not agree on that this year. So someone can grow up to 4 marijuana plants in their home. They can have up to an ounce of marijuana. And anything above that under current law is just a civil infraction until you get to a pound, and then it becomes a criminal felony charge. And the point was to take the criminal aspect out of marijuana enforcement, which we know has been disproportionately impacted communities of color. This year, there was a bill that passed, and it related initially to CBD gummies and banning them from being in certain shapes that might appeal to children. That bill then eventually got expanded a little bit to go into industrial hemp, and also banning Delta 8 gummies, which are something that you can buy at a store. And that bill passed the General Assembly and made its way to the governor. After that, he made some significant amendments to that bill. One of the most significant is that he added a criminal misdemeanor penalty for anyone that has more than 2 ounces of marijuana. This is something that a state watchdog agency recommended Virginia do in order to be in line with other states, but there is really has been and is some pretty serious opposition to this, because mainly the concern that by creating new criminal misdemeanors that are staggered over 2 ounces of marijuana, you're again potentially targeting and disproportionately communities of color. And so the Senate Democrats, who have the majority, I think are unlikely to approve that. Again, this amendment was crafted behind closed doors. There's lobbyists in the room. It's not done in a public setting where you and I can sit and listen to the process and even see who's in the room. So the Senate Democrats were irked that the governor did this without even consulting them. And I even talked yesterday to one Republican senator who has concerns that if you grew your own marijuana under the law as it is, you might end up with enough that you could potentially be in criminal territory. So we don't expect that to be accepted, but we'll find out tomorrow when they debate it.
Yeah, it takes a simple majority to approve the amendment, but that's probably unlikely given that the Democrats have a 21-19 edge in the Senate. And as Patrick said, Senator DeStaff, Republican, has already said that he's uncomfortable with that amendment. There are some additional subplots that are going to arise tomorrow. Another one you've written about is a Democratic leadership challenge. Why don't you tell folks about that?
Yeah, this is somewhat unexpected. A delegate from Portsmouth on the Democratic side, Don Scott, is trying to unseat the Democratic Party leader, Eileen Fillercorn, who was the Speaker of the House when the Democrats had control and is now the minority leader. And so we reported that Delegate Scott has been making phone calls and working for several weeks to see if he could get enough support in his caucus of 48 members to vote on Wednesday to remove Eileen Fillercorn from her role as party leader. So this is a really big deal. There's obviously a lot of fear on the part of the leadership when there's any type of challenge like this, and the unknowns are, does he have enough support to do this? We reported in a A1 story today that some lawmakers will tell someone that's challenging the power structure, yeah, I'm with you, or I'm on your side, but when it comes down to it, the vote on whether to remove Eileen Fillercorn is going to be done by secret ballot. And so that's something that we, if that vote goes forward, we'll find out on Wednesday what happens.
And it could be a situation where we often see that there's division behind closed doors and then they come out and do something by acclamation, so they don't make public the divisions or they try to paper over it. So that'll be interesting to see. One of the things that is not going to be resolved tomorrow is the budget, which has been held up for some time. You'll recall that lawmakers finished their regular session on March 12 without a budget. Governor called them back in the special session, which continues without a spending plan. Senate Finance Committee Chair Janet Howell has told our Michael Martz that it could be another month before we have a budget. But a component of that spending plan will come up tomorrow in Senate Finance as they take up the governor's bill on the gas tax. Tell folks what goes on there.
Yeah, among the tax cuts that Governor Youngkin has been pushing earlier this year was a suspension of Virginia's most recent 5-cent increase to the gas tax for a year, which the General Assembly rejected during the session. They ended up going into a special session, which is different than veto day. This is a separate thing that's ongoing, and that's where they're handling the budget and several other bills that didn't get finished in the regular session. And the governor has introduced in the special session legislation that would suspend the entire gas tax for the months of May, June, and July.
26 cents a gallon.
And this is part of his package of programs to try to ease the pain on people's wallets right now in a variety of ways. This also would reduce the gas tax in August and September. And there's legitimate concern over how that would affect transportation revenue. The governor's team says that there is a lot of unanticipated revenue and that the state can afford this. The Democrats are not convinced of that, and they do control the Senate still. So the Senate Finance Committee is expected to address that tomorrow, and I think the likely outcome would be rejection of what the governor wants.
Yeah, as Michael has reported, Senator Howell, the chair of Senate Finance, has basically said that she considers that proposal DOA. So we'll see what happens. There's one additional subplot tomorrow, not really a subplot, but also happening tomorrow, is the 4th annual March for Life, Virginia March for Life. This is an anti-abortion rally. It's going to be at the Bell Tower, and then there will be a march around the construction in Capitol Square. The timing of this is interesting because, as you're well aware, the U.S. Supreme Court is going to be ruling on a Mississippi abortion case sometime this summer, and given the makeup of the Supreme Court with 6 conservatives, 3 liberal justices now, there's a real possibility that the court could either overturn or undermine Roe versus Wade and send regulation of abortion largely back to the states. We have a new Attorney General, Jason Miyares, who has made clear that he considers Roe versus Wade wrongly decided and believes that that type of regulation should be the province of the state legislatures. So there's going to be a lot to keep tabs on tomorrow. So I want to thank Patrick Wilson for joining me, and we invite you all to continue following our coverage at richmond.com.